Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 56. Today we have a very special guest, plural. We have the University of Cincinnati disc golf men's team that just won the national title, and on that team is Tanner Young, who won the singles national title. So we're going to talk all about college disc golf and that amazing week they had there. Let's jump right into it. All right, we welcome into the show today four guests instead of one today. Today we have the 2023 College Disc Golf National Champions, the University of Cincinnati men's disc golf team. Thanks for joining the show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We also have within this team the singles national champion, but we'll get that to a bit later. So I want to start with introductions. So you guys can just go one by one and just give out your name, your year in school, what you're studying, and then just like a brief summary of your disc golf experience, like how long you've been playing.
I guess I'll start. My name is Calvin Caldwell. I'm a senior at UC, mechanical engineering. So actually, my brother on the other side, we've been playing disc golf basically our whole life. My dad got into it, I don't know, basically before we were born. So he's been a major part of like the Cincinnati disc golf community. He's been like the treasurer, head part of the club for a while, designing courses. So we've kind of gotten introduced to it at a young age. And we both also play Ultimate here at UC, so
nice.
We do both the disc sports.
Cool.
And then I'm Tanner Young. I'm a freshman here at UC, studying business, something in business. I don't really know yet.
Fair enough.
Still undecided there. And I've been playing disc golf for about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
My name is Kyle Taylor. I'm a senior as well at UC. I'm studying chemical engineering. And I've been playing disc golf for 6 years now.
Okay.
I'm Bradley Caldwell. I'm a freshman at UC. I'm studying information systems, and I feel like Calvin already explained my story too. So
nice. So that's cool. Y'all got a balance going on of seniors and freshmen, a little bit of experience and youth on the team. So I want to do a little flashback before we get into this year's nationals. You know, last year, 2022 Nationals, the team took 18th, a modest finish, but, you know, not too bad. Going into this year, what was the confidence level like as you guys were eyeing the season and setting goals?
Honestly, we're way more confident with this team. Just the way it works out doing the team doubles, you set up two teams of doubles, and it just worked out that we have two really good putters, and then two more driving-oriented players. And so Tanner and Kyle are really good putters, and so it worked out that they can be paired with Bradley and I, who I'm much better off the tee usually than I am putting, we just had like a good balance on the team. It's also nice when you're playing, you know you have confidence in your other players, like be able to get an upshot inbounds, and that upshot being like good enough to where it's a guaranteed 3 versus like, well, it's not good, but you have to still work for a 3. So we were pretty confident going in this year.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, and our entire team never actually played during the regular season of college disc golf. We played practice rounds together, and we played local events together, so we're always out on the course together. It's just the way that our schedules worked and conflicts that we're actually ever able to get to a college disc golf event as one full squad. But going into the week, there was no doubts of team chemistry. We've put multiple rounds on the course together. Everybody's spirits were high. We knew each other's games, and we felt like the pairs just worked out really well.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So, you know, for those of you listening who don't know the college disc golf process to qualify for nationals, you know, these days is you have to get a bid. Those events are starting to turn into these regional qualifiers now that are a pretty big deal, and there's a lot of competition at them. So you said you didn't have your full team. What was the bid process for you guys? When did you get your bid, and was it ever a doubt that you might get one?
Yeah, so it was just me and Bradley at the first one out of the four of us. We had a qualifier down in Lexington, and we actually did not get a bid there. Only the top 3 teams qualified, and we missed it by 1 stroke. So we had to go back up to Michigan later on last fall, and Calvin joined me and Bradley then as well. And luckily they were giving out 5 bids, and we were able to get one then.
Oh, wow. Wow. And I think I saw, was that the Great Lakes one?
Yes, at Lake Arvesta.
Yeah. So were you guys like one of the last teams in to get that bid at that event?
We were. I think we got like fourth or fifth, and
Yeah.
so we kind of just squeezed one in at the last minute.
Wow, yeah, you hear about that a lot with teams like having to get bids later in their season for nationals. It's starting to get pretty difficult, and like you mentioned, with schedule conflicts, it can be tough. One thing I was wondering about is, every disc golf team looks a bit different, especially when college disc golf is still developing. What does disc golf practice and like nationals preparation look like for the Cincinnati team?
Basically, I know for us, we just played a bunch of singles rounds where Kyle would just like call and be like, "Yo, going to this course, come join," and then we'd see who else can go, and we just play singles rounds basically. Because if you can play singles, the doubles game is pretty.
Yeah, no, certainly helps. Yeah, so you guys are it's pretty much a just play golf, get experience on the course, build chemistry type system.
Yep, and I'll just add to that, we were fortunate enough to have Idlewild 30 minutes from campus.
Yeah.
And so we'd get together, play Idlewild a lot, sometimes do doubles, sometimes do singles. It was just whatever we were feeling that day.
Yeah, that's awesome having that facility nearby. So another thing I was curious about is, one thing a lot of people probably don't realize about college disc golf is many of the teams competing are just clubs that don't really get much or any funding from their school. Do you guys get any support from the University of Cincinnati, or is this just you guys running the thing?
Yeah, so we get a little bit of support. We got, I want to say, around $1,000 to go to nationals, but we took 12 people. So if you think about the entry fee being $115 per person, rental cars that's mandated by the university, Airbnbs, that covers maybe a fourth of the trip, and that's a stretch.
Yeah.
So our president started a GoFundMe, and we had some help there. And then just other things, we covered the expenses by ourselves, which is interesting to see because you have teams out there like Liberty or Employee State, and they seemed like they have a lot of backing by the university. Our team doesn't have matching uniforms, so it's definitely like not known around campus that we have a disc golf club and that we went and won the national title. But I definitely think the word is getting out, and after talking to our organization this week, they're going to give us more money next year. We actually got invited by Steve Dodge to go play in a tournament in Massachusetts later this month, and Club Sports was like, "Yeah, we'll bankroll everything you need to go there. Just let us know what it costs." So I think we're getting recognition that we need, and hopefully when Calvin and I graduate, the team will be in a lot better spot than it was this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, it always helps to win a national title to get some funding for sure. Did you guys? Are you guys technically like a club sport at Cincinnati? Is that part of the program there?
Yeah, we're in the club sports branch, which there's like thousands of clubs here. So.
Okay, yeah, I know that, like you were saying, it's crazy rolling up to nationals, and you see, like I was, fortunate that I played for Liberty that had a very thorough club sports program, and like, we had buses, everything was paid for. We paid a little fee to join, but like, nothing compared. We had uniforms and everything, and then you see some teams. I mean, I remember when I was playing, and this still happens, I'm sure, but you had guys that were piling into one car, driving across the country and camping, just to be able to play at nationals. That's a reality. No uniforms, no nothing. So it's good to see, like, as the sport pushes forward, that'll grow more, and hopefully schools will start to recognize those programs and fund it, because there is a very big difference. Like you mentioned, Emporia State's another one who you can tell has gotten some backing. I know Dynamic is kind of backing them too, it seems like, and they've got all kinds of stuff going. So moving on in the season, you guys got that bid. You're qualified for nationals. You're headed back to North Cove with a bit of a different team. How confident are you going into nationals that, I know every team likes to think they have a shot, but realistically, where were you guys at thinking like, okay, can we do this year?
Yeah, I mean, we found out that the round one doubles was at Boulders.
Yeah.
And I feel like our game sets up really well for the Gorge. All of us can confidently throw the distance drives, the shots that are required. None of us are really taking flex lines or technical lines to gain the extra distance. And so Boulders is a little shorter of a course. Definitely allows teams who can't throw as far to have that scoring potential. So we went in with we can't win the tournament here, but we can lose it. And we came out shooting 15 down at Boulders and was in solo second place, and really kind of solidified that this is a team that we wanted to take, and that after that moment, like, we have a chance to win this thing. We definitely felt confident going into the week. We didn't really know our competition because we hadn't played against a lot of them.
Right.
But after that first round, we definitely solidified our confidence and we're ready to push the gas to the pedal.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's tough in college disc golf a lot of times to gauge the teams that you're going to be competing with because, in my day, we would know Clemson and NC State really well, maybe Mississippi State, some of those teams, but like the West Coast teams, Oregon, some of the teams from Cali, we had no idea. Ferris we usually wouldn't see, and they were a huge team. But was there any teams that were kind of on your radar going in, like, ooh, that's going to be the team to beat, or is it kind of just like, who knows?
Well, it's weird looking at, like, when you're scouting, you just kind of look at the PDGA ranking,
right?
Like ratings, and you see some teams have like a higher average where they have a bunch of 970 players, or there's some teams that have like one great player at like 1,000, but then the lower players are a bit more behind. So it's like that can hurt more at the gorge course where like it helps to have 2 shots off the tee because there's so much OB that even no matter how good you are, it's like there's just OB everywhere. So
I think looking at ratings, our initial guess was NC State was going to be the team to beat. I think all of their players were either rated in the 970s or 980s. They really had a solid squad. If you look at college disc golf rankings, they were ranked number 1, I believe.
Yeah.
So they had a good preseason. In my mind, that was the team to keep pace with. Later in the tournament, actually after our singles round, I played with a Clemson player, and I know our team did, and they came out and they were throwing the disc well, they were putting well. And I was like, that's the team that we have to beat. If we can keep pace with Clemson, we'll be up there. But then, the third day, Clemson didn't do well at the gorge during the adverse conditions and really fell down the leaderboard. So that it was just a roller coaster of what team to keep pace with. And then, at the final day, it was Emporia State to keep pace with. But definitely my idea of what team was there to win was changed throughout the week duration.
Also for the Zoo, since they won last year and they were still in the top 3 this year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of really strong teams. It's not like it used to be. There's so many teams now that can compete. Have 4 guys that can really make a solid challenge. So round 1 at the Boulders, you guys mentioned it was a success. You shoot 15 under, 1 off the hot round, really good. Then comes a major setback at that point, and that was, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. We have only some of the facts, but Bradley, you were the only one to play singles that first day, correct?
Yes.
And I'm assuming, based on your score of par plus 4 for the first 4 holes, that you were late to your tee time. So I need the story. What happened?
Yeah, so I had no idea that I was in the top 54 in college rankings. I wasn't even fully aware that they were actually teeing off a day early. And I was the only one on our team that had a college ranking because he didn't play any tournaments with us in the qualifiers. So they didn't really mean too much. But apparently, I'm upstairs in the Airbnb, and I get yelled at, and I get told I need to tee off in 2 minutes at the gorge.
And we're 35 minutes away, so we're get in the car. I was racing there, but
oh my gosh,
yeah. I mean, it was weird because there's no. I remember last year Kyle and I played nationals, and there was a PDF everyone had on their phone of the full schedule. Here's when everything is. This year there was not a very clear infographic until the day after we had our mishap, and then they printed one out and put it on the top. And also at that course, Tanner's the only one on our team that had a reception, so we can't even I can't check on any things. I'm just kind of winging it while I'm there. So we had the miscommunication with the scheduling, and then there's also the new match play this year, which I know a lot of teams thought the match play was that day, because why would the singles round, which is one round, get competed against on 2 different days? It's kind of bizarre, but
yeah.
So we ended up racing Bradley there. He's 4 holes late, and he just runs to hole 5, joins. Obviously, it's hard to play around mentally when you are 16 strokes behind already, not warmed up. So he ended up not playing well
Not
anyways,
very well.
But
Yeah, I think the whole experience, there was just a lot of miscommunication between the players in college disc golf. We had a couple members of our D2 team out there. They're the ones that gave us the phone call of, you have 2 minutes to tee off. And when we're in the car, I was like, well, go talk to the college disc golf staff. What is it? Is it better for Bradley not to tee off? Is it better for him to tee off? Because in the players meeting, they mentioned if you didn't have that fourth person in singles, you just take the worst score plus 2.
Oh.
We were thinking, well, the worst score is probably going to be plus 12. I think it ended up being plus 14. So if we would have followed that rule, he would have taken a plus 16 instead of a plus 23.
Yeah.
We would have gained some strokes back by there. But college disc golf, went ahead and said, no, we can't reschedule your tee time until tomorrow. No, we can't give you if we give you the plus 2, it'll be a plus 74.
Because there's also like 3 other players.
Yeah.
That missed it.
Yeah.
Three players in the first 2 cards missed their tee times.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
You think people that started early also had no idea, but then people started realizing, like, wait, who's teeing off over there? They go figure it out and call their team, like, hey, get over here. You tee off in half an hour, and then they are able to.
It was a weird mishap. So for those of you listening, they introduced a singles match play like exhibition this year that was essentially they had the top 64 players ranked in the country, which those rankings are already very weird because, and that's probably why you didn't realize you were ranked, is because players aren't even playing each other most of the year, so it's hard to like pick and choose where they should be. But the top 64 players in the college rankings got to play their singles round a day early so that they could be seeded for a match play title that technically didn't matter. And because of that, there was, like you said, many people who didn't even realize they were supposed to be teeing off and ending up with that mishap. Luckily, there's a happy ending to the story. But so obviously you go out there, I can't even imagine how awful that felt. Like the whole team, like kind of like on your back, like, oh my gosh, my score is going to ruin things. After that 23 over comes in, and, the scoring system is different than it used to be. It's the average now instead of adding them all together. That definitely helps. But, like, how bad was the loss of hope after that? Like, was it like, well, that's it, let's refocus on a new goal? Or were you guys like, you know what, we can beat this? What was the feeling like?
We went through phases where it was like, I remember Kyle at one point is like, we're done. Like, let's just go home at this point. Like,
I would have been very mad.
But it's like, you can't do that. So, but we ended up playing well and fighting back from it. But
initially things were very rough, and the whole mood was at an all-time low. But eventually, we started thinking about it and crunching the numbers and like just realizing, if me, Kyle, and Calvin go out there and play a great singles round, we might still have a chance.
Yeah.
And that's when things started to turn around, and we started getting more motivation and inspiration and just a will to want to go out there and do what we could.
Right. Yeah. It definitely was picked up with some good singles rounds. We'll get to that in a second for sure. So you had those clutch rounds to help the score average, which kind of gets it back to a reasonable place. And then follow that up with a really good doubles round at the Gorge, shooting 8 under, kind of putting yourself back into it. But at this point, you're 5 back at the lead going into the final round from Emporia State. You also have Missouri ahead of you, but Emporia is definitely in the lead, the one to catch. 5 back is nothing crazy, but in doubles, especially bad weather at the Gorge, it's I guess more realistic in that scenario because there's more separation, but it's still 5 strokes in doubles, and that's quite a lot of work to do. What were you thinking going into that final round? Like, what did you think you were going to have to shoot to catch them?
Yeah, so we were thinking the weather was terrible.
Yeah.
So that helped. We
Real bad.
managed the conditions the day before very well. We didn't take a single bogey, kind of played smart golf, attacked the course when we could. And then there was the idea of, well, Emporia State is on film. So that is a little bit of added pressure to that team. None of them are competing on the pro level. Maybe a couple of them had local film here and there, but nothing of the Central Coast and PGA production level. And so we were thinking, well, maybe the film would help us too, build those nerves, be able to gain a couple strokes back. And so my idea of going into that, I was explaining to the team, is if we go out and we just shoot almost the same that we did the day before, maybe a little bit better, I would say it's a 50-50 chance that we take down the championship.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, and the weather and the difficulty of that course, certainly. Like, there are a lot of doubles courses where 2 good teams are really not going to separate by 5 strokes, but in that scenario, and coming from a behind card did definitely make a difference. But before that final round of doubles, we had the singles finals, which Tanner and Calvin were both qualified for at 9 under par, only 2 off the lead. Although 9 under par, there's a big difference between Calvin. I believe you were on the lead card, correct?
Yep.
And then Tanner 2 cards back, also at 9 under par, just because of how many people were bunched in there. So you got to play the final 13 at the Gorge, 13 holes on that course. They kind of jumped around a little bit, but you played plenty of tough holes. Going into the final round of the Gorge, because I think this round was like super unpredictable. What were you guys thinking would need to be shot in order to win?
I definitely thought people were going to shoot better than they did. I did not think the high round would be even, but
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking a couple strokes under par.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure because, like, a lot of times when you get that many guys that have already shot a pretty hot round, like, it's pretty easy to think, like, I mean, somebody's going to go off here and shoot 5-6 under, even in the bad weather. Like, it's I never would have expected things to go the way they did. I mean, I was following, we started out kind of following the lead card and then jumped around a little bit. But very early on, there was definitely a lot of, like, sloppy shots being thrown, people throwing out of bounds a ton. How much of that do you think was, weather versus nerves? Was it mostly the weather, mostly the nerves, or a mix of both?
I would say mostly weather because, that was, at that point, it's been raining for it rained 2 days straight, so everything's wet, all your discs are wet, and, I had a couple hard times of holding onto the disc down the stretch where I just missed through them because I couldn't hold onto the disc, but...
Yeah,
I would agree that weather played most of it, but I think there were still a little bit of nerves. At the end of the day, we were competing for a major championship.
Certainly.
Can't be understated.
Oh, yeah, not at all. Hey, first major of the year. People forget too easily. So Tanner, you're on the third card, and I remember, we kind of followed the lead card out, and then as things are progressing, for those of you who aren't familiar with the format, they played 13 holes, and I believe it was it 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 before they went over to 12?
It was 1 through 8 and then 12.
1 through 8, then 12.
17.
Yeah. So after hole 8 is when we kind of were like, hey, we need to wait here and watch this third card come down 12 because it was not only you, but I believe Sam from Kentucky. I think everybody on that card was kind of in it at that point. Obviously, I know Benjamin from Ferris did not have a great hole there. I think he took a 10 on 12. That kind of took him out of it. But there was, it was starting to look like, hey, the third card, might be the one where the winner comes from. So that's when we started following. Tanner, were you kind of like, how much were you looking at live scoring, and like at what hole were you like, okay, hold on a second, like I could win this thing?
Yeah, well, my game was feeling really good going into it. I was throwing the disc really well. I was putting good. I took a few silly bogey strokes here and there, but through about the first 8 was when I looked over at the president of our club, Jacob Johnston, who was caddying for me, and I was like, I had just taken a bogey, and I was like, where am I at? Pull up scores real quick. Let me just get a look at it. And I think, like, even after taking the bogey, I looked and I saw that I was still up 2 on Calvin, and I was like, whoa, like,
yeah,
it was definitely really surprising. And then I pretty much followed him on almost every hole from there on out.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the top half of the cards just really started peeling away, and it really emerged as that third card. Now, once you kind of got to 18, I think at that point, you had still been playing solid. You were holding on to the lead. Now, on 17, you took a tough one. You think that drive was out of bounds on 17. So going into 18, I think at that point, Calvin was starting to catch up a little bit. He was kind of the one that was chasing. Were you ever considering a play for birdie on 18, or was it always, I just need to make par, get into the clubhouse, and see what happens?
Well, at that point, I did know that Calvin was tied with me.
Yeah.
But going into 18, I just thought, I can't go for the birdie and risk bogeying and then just basically handing it to him. I've got to at least make him earn his way through the final stretch to try to get the birdies to beat me. And honestly, right before I threw a good drive, and then right before I threw my second shot, I looked over at my caddy again, and like his mood instantly switched from like, you have to go for it to just lay up.
Yeah.
And like I was really caught off guard by this, and I knew something was up. And he told me that Calvin had just taken an unfortunate double bogey. And so then my decision was obvious. It was just lay up, play for par on 18.
Yeah, once you tapped out on 18, took that par, what's going through your head there? Are you kind of thinking like, wow, I just won the title? Or is it just kind of like still on edge? Like, I know you sprinted back to watch. How nervous were you feeling at that moment?
I was still on edge, and I was in shock, and I really just didn't know what to do. And I was just like, I just got to go watch. Like, standing around here on 18 just doing nothing was killing me.
Yeah.
And so I had to just go back and watch and see what was going on.
Yes. Yeah, it was definitely a pretty crazy moment, like tapping out there and still being 2 more cards to follow through.
Yes.
So you obviously end up holding on, win the national title. Congratulations again, an awesome accomplishment as a freshman. You end up going 1-2, you and Calvin in the finals. What kind of momentum, did that help a little bit? You guys are only 5 back. You get that all of a sudden you've got the national champion and the runner-up from your team. Did that kind of give a little bit of like morale boost and inspiration going into that final round?
I think it definitely did. Going even at the end of the singles round, I was like, if Calvin's the only person that has a chance at beating me, I'm happy with that. There's nobody in that field I'd rather have beat me than my own teammate. And I think the only question was, me and Calvin were doubles partners for the team round. And so it was like, do we split us up now?
Yeah.
We ended up deciding not to, just keeping it with what we had. But that was really the only thought process.
Yeah, for sure. So we get into that final round. Like we said, Emporia is definitely the team to catch. Early on in that round, Emporia was looking really good. They had Missouri to deal with. They were handling them no problem. And, we always had Cincinnati in the back of our minds as we were starting to cover it, but we were thinking, if Emporia doesn't slip up at all, this thing is going to be almost impossible to take from them. And they're playing pretty well. I don't know how much you guys were watching live scoring, but was the mindset at early in that round that, they might pull away, we might be playing for second?
No, I think we were always playing for first, but it was just more of like we just had to shoot fire and get every hole.
Yeah.
We started off really, really well, and then we had like a pretty cold stretch in the middle where we just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah. And I was the only one, again, like Kyle said earlier, that had reception. I was kind of following scores, and every now and then I try to kind of update the guys, and I noticed that we were kind of slowly creeping up there. And at one point I was just like, we've got this. Like, we're only 2-3 strokes back. Anything can happen. Those final 4 holes are wild. It's a great finishing stretch. And so I just tried to kind of uplift the guys and it was like, let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, so it started tightening up, and, you mentioned it's those last few holes that are just like, it's an incredible finish at that course. I'm really excited to see the silver event that's playing there. But, 15, 16, 17, 18 is such a crazy stretch, and they all are kind of around the same area. So we kind of parked ourselves there to watch the cards come through. And you guys are starting to tighten it up. And Emporia State had taken a little cold stretch, like towards the middle of their round, that let you guys really get into it and apply some pressure. But 16 comes by, you guys birdie, or 15, you guys birdie 15, Emporia birdies 15. And then as they're kind of tapping out, you guys both go for it on 16 and go double OB. At that point, I was thinking to myself, that's ball game. Was there definitely like a defeated attitude after that hole?
Maybe a little bit, where it's like, obviously when you have 2 people on the tee and you have the decision to lay up or go for it, I remember I was down there spotting and I'm like, I really don't care what decision, because Kyle went first and he was short of the island, and then so Bradley was up, and I remember thinking like, there is no wrong decision here because we are back like 2 or 3 strokes, and it's like, you're not, like, the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is like lay up and then like par out, but then just let them have it and then be 1 stroke behind at the end and be like, well, we didn't even try. So he ended up going for it and then missing it. At that point, it's like, well, we needed to get this to win. Because we can't bank on them messing up and just giving us strokes. So
Right. It felt that way, and EMAC, the coach for Emporia, walked over to us like right afterwards. Was like, did they both go for it? And we were like, yeah, and they both went out. And I kind of just saw his face like, oh, like it almost kind of was like that was going to be it. Because Emporia then, at that point, Emporia just needs par out, and that's it. And in doubles, even at the Gorge in doubles, that's very doable. And they laid up par 16. Now, An interesting splash, though, happens very next hole on 17. You guys birdie it, which was a almost impossible birdie to get in that weather with that wind. Who was the one that threw the drive? We didn't get to see it. Okay.
Guy.
How close was it?
25?
Yeah, it was like
25, 30?
Yeah. Just did you like flip it up wide or just kind of up the gut?
I just threw like an overstable destroyer out the right side and then just hyzered right in.
Yeah, so that kind of did add a little element of pressure. Was like, okay, they're still here. They made a birdie on 17, which was almost ungettable. And then we get into Emporia. They go to hole 17, layup, both missed the upshot. Where were you guys on 18 when you saw that they took a double on 17? Like when that came across your live scoring?
We were walking up to our drive.
Yeah, we had just thrown our drive, and we just knew that like they were taking a really long time. We were like, something's got to be happening. Like, I don't know if it's Emporia State or if it's the other team that was on their card, but we were just like, something's got to be up. And right before we threw our second shots, I looked at my phone, and it was just utter disbelief and shock.
Yeah. I would say probably a little bit flustered, thinking like, okay, we're just kind of making our way in, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, we might win again. Yeah. So as you're getting to that shot, was the game plan? Did anybody throw out the notion of going for the island, or was it just you know what, let's get in?
Well, Tanner laid up first on the left side to where, I mean, you can't really lay up better because it's like what you can do is like move 20 feet closer, but it's like still pretty hard shot. So he got one over there to where it's like 2 shots at the island. We should get this. And so I ended up going for it because Bradley had a pretty good mash off the first shot, and so that was up there. So I only had like, I don't know, it was like 460, 470 to the green. So I ended up throwing that same destroyer I did on hole 17, but it hit right by the basket, skipped and rolled OB, and it was hanging on the edge, like less than a foot away from the OB, which was unfortunate. But
dang. Yeah, that island is almost impossible to hit, especially from that distance, but that would have certainly been something. Well, in any case, you got the par. You're watching Emporia come in. What was that like? Like, finally, for the first time in that round, you guys had the upper hand. They had to make par, birdie to win, but that was very tough to do. Like, was there just like just a huge shift in confidence knowing that, hey, now we're watching them, the pressure's on their end?
Yeah, I remember thinking, like, we're 100% going into a playoff. I mean, it's doubles. They obviously playing well. They're in first place the whole tournament. And then, but 18 is also a hole where there's some luck involved, and you can easily mess up on it. And they ended up messing up both of their upshots. But with their second shot from their drive was OB, so they had to go extra safe, which makes the upshot to the island even harder. And then they ended up messing those both up. Which, I mean, I can imagine the nerves on them. It's like, oh yeah. Like, they don't want to sit there and blow the lead, and that's going through their head, which probably makes it worse. So
it's the first time they actually had to attack and have to play well. You've been coasting around the whole last round. Pressure's on. All of us are standing on the bridge watching them on their shots.
Yeah, talk about a ridiculously quick mind shift to have to make when you're like you said, they're playing with the lead that entire round, and then all of a sudden it's like, because their game is very much, they were good at playing safe, effective shots. They played within their game a lot. Emporia, that's what I noticed about them, and that's why they were so good in doubles. But all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we've got to throw a nice drive here and then try to throw the most aggressive, difficult shot on this course practically if we want to win this thing. The first layup going out of bounds is really what put them in trouble, like you mentioned, because now they've got to throw super safe, and then it was truly a tricky upshot onto that green. The first one, very, very close, but obviously not able to make it happen, and then that second one kicks out of bounds, and that's the win. Like, all of a sudden switches around. Pretty awesome feeling, and a big win for Cincinnati. So that was a very epic win for you guys. One thing I want to ask from each of you before we wrap up the show is each of you just kind of go through and give out your favorite part of college disc golf, like what you enjoy the most about it, kind of your sales pitch, what makes it so special for all of our listeners who aren't as quite familiar with what it's all about.
I mean, for me, it's not even like the disc golf part of it. You're hanging out with 3 pretty close friends, maybe a brother, which that can be, interesting. But so like on the trip, we're the whole time. I mean, Kyle and I, it's our senior year. We went last year, going down. We're just gonna have fun on this. We get to skip school for a week. We're gonna go hang out in Airbnb. It's like we're just gonna have fun. You don't think about anything else. No school. It's just you're just hanging out, having fun. So that was my highlight of college disc golf for that month.
Yeah, I would agree. Like just hanging out with 3 other people. Well, really for us, we had an Airbnb of 12 because we brought 3 teams down. But just playing disc golf with these 3 guys, and it's such a team sport. Disc golf is never really regarded as a team sport, but college disc golf makes it more of a team sport. And like even the individual round, one guy can have a bad round and the other 3 can be there to back him up, and you're still one team, and that's just what makes it special.
Yeah, I mean, college disc golf to me is the ability for us to come together as a group with great friends, with great teammates, and actually compete on a level. I know this year there's over 700 competitors, 80 schools. A lot of people don't know about disc golf, especially going to a Big 12 school where it's football, basketball, baseball, and it's unfortunate that disc golf is just a club sport. But we really don't have that, recognition or that outlet to go compete at this high level. And what college disc golf is doing these last couple of years gives those players the ability to go out there and compete with the best college players in the world, in the United States, and really showcase their skills and compete as a team and represent their school just like any other collegiate athlete would if they were playing an NCAA sport.
Yeah, I just love how college disc golf it's a team sport. It's not often where you have 4 guys who all have the same mission and they're all not just interested in their own rounds, but they're working together as a team. And I like the format. I feel like I'm more of a doubles player myself, but I think it's really cool to play with a team rather than by yourself.
Yeah,
Your senior school would say that too.
Yeah.
I think that perfectly encapsulates it. I think it is awesome that it could be a team sport, that you get a chance to represent your school, and yeah, ultimately, like that's what I miss about college disc golf the most too, is just hanging out with the guys and being a part of a team like that. It's really a special thing. If you're watching or listening to this right now and you have not checked out college disc golf, there's coverage of this past nationals on the PDGA YouTube channel. You should definitely go check that out. We also had some things on our socials that we posted throughout the week. We were there all week. But that's all I've got for this show. Thanks again to you guys for joining. Congratulations again for just an incredible season. I mean, really as good as it gets. So that was awesome, and wish you the best of luck as you then switch things over into gear for next season.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks once again to the guys for joining the show today. Really cool to get some insight into those amazing national titles that they won there. Congratulations to the University of Cincinnati again. Just an awesome, awesome week they had at nationals. And if you haven't checked out college disc golf, I really, really hope you give it a shot. It's a really cool thing they have going over there. But other than that, we'll be back next week with another episode, and I'll see you then.